Welcome back to the Grease Goblin YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing kind of a different video. We're going to be doing a full spoiler review of Spider-Man No Way Home. So if you've not seen the movie, do not watch unless you want to know the spoilers for some reason. And yeah, if you would like to see more content like this on like movie reviews and stuff like that, let us know. And let's get into it.
I'm here too. Luke is finally back in a video. Coming back, coming strong, coming on the backs. Cut that part out.
Yeah, Luke decided to actually come in a video this time. You know, he usually doesn't do that.
It's winter break. We're able to... let's get a movie review. Okay. Let's start from the beginning. What'd you think of the movie?
So, the first time I watched it, I thought it was really good. I thought it was like a 9 out of 10. Like, really good.
Yeah, we watched the movie twice, okay? So we have a very good understanding of... Okay, wait, did you see Far From Home? The other ones? Okay, so you've seen all the other Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I have not seen Homecoming, but I have seen Far From Home. But we saw No Way Home twice in theaters, so we got a good understanding of the movie. We saw everything, had full-on attention each time. And the first time I watched it, I thought the movie was okay. It was pretty good. And then the second time I watched it, and the more I thought about it, my rating drastically went down.
Yeah, so I keep seeing people think that this movie is like flawless, like it's the best movie of the year or whatever, and I'm like,
I feel like we're the only ones that don't feel that way.
I know, like it's one of those things where I feel like if you only watched it once, you got that really nice high of the nostalgia, and then you didn't think about the actual plot. Like the actual plot is where the movie kind of falls apart. Like there's some parts where it's like, yeah, it makes sense, but the entire first third of the movie for me just like falls really flat.
Yeah, okay, so like the major plot point is the whole Doctor Strange does a spell, and Peter Parker told him to do a spell, make everybody forget, and that just, it fails, it leads to all these problems, and the middle section of the movie is good, it's fun to watch, but the beginning section, getting to that point, was just full of me just being like, what the fuck, why would they do this? Because, okay, first spoiler, I don't even know if this is a spoiler, it's in the trailer.
Yeah.
Okay, not really a spoiler.
I feel like the first third, there's not really a lot of spoilers, because all of it's pretty much like
it's basically
in the trailer.
In the trailer. Here's my problem, though. Okay, so Peter Parker has the feeling, he's like, my whole life and my friends' lives and my aunt's life and everybody's life has been ruined now that everybody knows I'm Spider-Man. And he goes to Doctor Strange asking him for help. And he's like, can you just make the people forget that I'm Spider-Man? And Doctor Strange's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Then starts casting a spell to make everybody forget, even himself. Why the hell... Why would Doctor Strange think that Peter Parker wanted him to forget? He wanted his family to forget? That makes no sense. Peter Parker literally said, he was like, I just don't like all these people knowing I'm Spider-Man, hinting at all the new strangers, the people that aren't in his life. And then Doctor Strange takes it too far and says, okay, I'm going to make everybody forget. That's literally pointless. They will do nothing. They will literally do nothing to solve a problem. And what need does Doctor Strange have to make himself forget? Because in the spell, Doctor Strange is going to be like, oh, I'm going to forget too. Why would you need to do that? What purpose would that serve?
Okay, also, the thing I don't understand is they don't even talk about it. They're just like, all right, let's just jump on into it. Like, let's not explore, like, any other options. You know how they joke after he does the spell? He's like, oh, well, did you, talk to the, college people to let you in or whatever, admissions? And he's like, no. It's like, why didn't we have this conversation before you do an entire spell that alters the entire, like, world?
It makes no sense. I just can't get over the fact that Doctor Strange was, like, even before, like, setting up some, like, standards for this spell, he's like, okay, just starts casting it. He doesn't ask Peter Parker, well, who do you want to remember? Who do you want these people to forget? Why do you want them to forget? He's just like, okay, starts casting a spell for no fucking reason.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really, like, and not even that. It's also, like, I feel like the beginning is just really, like slow and boring, too. Like, it takes a while to get going. This movie, like, very much reminds me of something where it's, like, they knew how to get to the... They knew what they wanted at the end. They just didn't... They couldn't know how to get there.
Yeah, they had an idea of the plot. Like, the middle section, the people they brought in, the story they wanted to tell, they knew how to tell it, except getting to that story was a problem point for them. It felt like they were just like looking around the room, trying to come up with, oh shit, okay, let's just throw this in there, let's throw this in there. Oh, sure, yeah, that works, and now we got the story we want. It's like, no.
And, I don't know. It's another thing where it's like, I feel like it's cool, like, like, Spider-Man, like, hunting down all the villains and stuff like that just to get them together because that's the point. The whole point of the movie for them is basically we want to do a Sinister Six thing where they're versus the Spider-Man, and we do all that. I feel like, I don't know, it was really odd because the way they capture Electro and Sandman is really just odd because it's like Sandman, right? Really helpful, helps take Electro out, you know, and they get him captured. It doesn't make almost any sense when it comes to the rest of the movie, when it comes to Sandman's characters. Like, this is just a plot error. All right, speaking of villains, we're going to talk about all the individual characters and some of the things that worked, some of the things that didn't work, some of the great characters, some of the not so great characters.
Spoiler, heavy spoiler. All the Spider-Men are in it. We got Tom Holland, we got Tobey Maguire, and we got Andrew Garfield. And they're all like, they're not like mirrors of each other. So it's not like you're watching the same guy make the same jokes. It's like, you can tell they're all Peter Parker, but they all put their own spin into it. Like Andrew Garfield basically plays as like a, kind of a, I don't know how you describe it. He's kind of depressed and he's kind of just like socially awkward about a lot of the shit.
Yeah, which I think is funny.
And it's funny. It's like in a funny way. It's not like you're watching it and you're feeling depressed. It's like, no, he's making it funny. Tom Holland, you know, main Spider-Man, so he's gonna pull like all the main lead for this whole movie, and he does a pretty good job at it. And then Tobey Maguire, he's also in there. He's basically, yeah, like a 30-year-old, like a 40-year-old dad, like with kids, leading the other Spider-Man around for a little bit. Being like, oh, that's great. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's great. Yeah, he's very supportive. He's a very supportive guy.
So what I will say that I think the movie did really well is they did a great job of still making Tom Holland the lead Spider-Man with also having like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire come in and not like taking over that main role. Even though I think like they did a good job of like giving them their own like moments and stuff.
Yeah,
like
they all
that.
got their own like good pulling moments.
Like we'll talk. Heavy spoilers again. We'll talk. So basically, like Tobey Maguire's, you know, saving Tom Holland from making the mistake of killing, you know, Green Goblin, or like Andrew Garfield gets the moment to save MJ to kind of finish his whole little arc, which is really good.
Give him some redemption there.
Now, all the Spider-Mans think good. I think the villains, I think is where we have a couple problems.
That's where like a lot of the weak point is. But let's just first start with Doc Ock.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Doc Ock is the main one. And out of all the villains in this whole movie, I feel like he is the only one that I think is flawlessly good. Well, maybe Green Goblin too.
I think Green Goblin is probably the best one for me.
But Doc Ock, for me, Doc Ock is my favorite just because it's okay, so the movie begins, he's the first villain you find because Peter Parker, Tom Holland, that Peter Parker, was going to the college, like, dean or whatever, and was having a talk with her, telling her to let them and their friends back into college because now that everybody knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man, his friends are all being, like, targeted, he's being targeted, and they weren't accepted into any colleges. So he's going to talk to the dean, and in the middle of the conversation, Doc Ock just comes out of nowhere and just starts blasting shit, fighting. And the fight's very good. I think it's out of all the fights in the movie, I think it's one of the better ones.
Agreed.
Just because it's the most interesting. It's the first encounter with a villain. You're like, oh, what the fuck's happening? So in that fight, you see Doc Ock, he's throwing shit around, and he discovers that Peter Parker is Tom Holland, and he's like, this is not my Peter. And then all of a sudden, Green Goblin comes out of nowhere, but you get zapped back into the Doctor Strange
area.
Yeah, okay, so every time,
Basement
they get zapped into the, there was a name for it.
He used an official name, but we basically say it's the wizard's basement.
It's like the wizard's basement. And that's when Doc Ock starts being like, okay, something is suspicious. And through the whole movie, it feels like there's an actual character change with him. Like, he goes from being like, I'm hunting Peter Parker to be like, what the fuck's happening with Peter Parker? And then at the end of the movie, he has a great redemption to where he's like, ends up being basically a good guy. Because he helps all the Peter Parkers in their fight. But not all the other characters had a good story arc or a good story change like that.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about the other good ones. So I think the other main good one is Green Goblin. I think they do a really good job of keeping what worked in the first Spider-Man into this movie with using a lot of his like mental disorders that he's going through.
Yeah.
And we even get to see where like Green Goblin's very likable. Like he starts helping during the plot at the beginning. And then we just see that quick little turn. As soon as he's about to get, like, cured, or we think he's going to get cured anyway, he has that quick turn back to Green Goblin, and that's what basically makes the, whole rest of the second half of the movie start going.
He fucks it up. Green Goblin really is the one that sets up everything else.
Which is funny, because, he pretty much helps Doc Ock, so that's how we got, a hero in this movie.
Yeah.
And I think they did his character really well. I think they did a great job by, again, spoiler, having him kill Aunt May and stuff like that and being the main antagonist of this film. I think that was a really good decision for him.
Oh, yeah, you just kind of glossed over that. Yeah, he absolutely decimates Aunt May.
Yeah, I'm not even sure how Aunt May had enough time to, like, talk there at the end.
Bro, so imagine how Green Goblin died in the original Spider-Man. Similar to that is how Aunt May gets killed.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah. And so that I think that wraps up, like, our villains that I think are good.
The good ones.
Okay, there's, like, okay ones, and then there's just kind of
Let's go with Electro next, because he's like the best out of the okay ones.
Okay, so I want to talk about Electro. Electro's kind of a mixed bag for me because in Amazing Spider-Man 2, he was not a good villain. Okay, he just wasn't. Right? Like, you might think he was, but, like, he just wasn't. There wasn't a good villain in that movie, in my opinion. But I think they improved him on making him a little bit more likable and making him, like, more of a funny character, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
But when we look at the reasoning for why the villains came into this movie, he shouldn't have been in the movie.
Yeah, so basically, Doctor Strange, when they cast this spell and it gets all fucky-wucky, they find Doc Ock and then they find some other villains. And Doctor Strange says that everybody that knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man is being sucked into this universe. But Electro, you said, because I never watched The Amazing Spider-Man 2. But
I'm like 99% sure he never knew that, like, Spider-Man was Peter Parker. Unless that's wrong, somebody tell me in the comments if that's wrong, but I'm, like, pretty sure that's not a thing.
That's what I'm saying. It's like that whole part, I don't know.
So it just feels like someone where, like, they kind of forgot or something, or they really just wanted to have another villain in this movie. I don't know. Because, personally, that kind of falls flat. Also, when they're first capturing him, like I said before, they kind of just make Electro a little bitch. Like,
yeah, he really is just a little bitch.
Like, Sandman just goes, okay, let's put you in a little tornado, and then Spider-Man unplugs him, and that's it.
Yeah.
Another thing with his character is when they're trying to fix everyone, right? So in the beginning of the movie, they, or not the beginning, but like around the start of the middle, they put this, or Tom Holland put something on his chest. I'm guessing it's to take the electricity out of him or something. And it takes so long
to charge it. Yeah.
Like, it's like a good, like, I feel like a minute and a half of screen time where that thing's on his chest and it's just going slowly around. The end of the film, when, Doc Ock puts it on his chest, it's instant.
It's instant, yeah. So, like, there was a part in the movie, like how you said, like, the beginning of the middle section, really, is Peter Parker decides we're not sending all the villains back to their own universe. We're going to help them and then send them back, because he doesn't want them to go back and die. He wants to change their fate and make them good people and send them back. So he comes up with this device, and when you put it on Electro's chest, it would charge up, and when it charges completely, it takes all the electricity out of him. And like you said, like, literally, they're sitting inside this condo, and it's, like, good maybe, like, 6 minutes of just, like, screen time of it charging up. Takes forever, and at the very end of the movie, they put it on his chest and it charges up instantly.
Like, you guys might think this is a nitpick, but it's like, there's so many little things like that in this movie.
It's so many nitpicks that it's a big pick.
Yeah, like, if there was, like, well, it was only a couple of them, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'll give it to you. Like, okay, for instance, my favorite Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield, and I know those movies have a lot of things in them, so, like, yeah. But I don't know, it's just a lot of things like that. And, like, we're going to talk about our next villain. You can talk about Sandman.
Yeah, let's save Lizard for last.
Yeah, Lizard's kind of just there.
Okay, so when we encounter Sandman the exact same time we find Electro. And he helps Peter Parker capture Electro. And the whole time he's like, do you remember me? I'm Sandman. I'm whatever his name is. And Peter Parker's like, no, I'm not your Peter Parker. And Sandman's like, I don't understand, but okay. And then once they capture Electro, Sandman goes, wait a second, did you just kill him? Instantly tries to attack Peter Parker. Spider-Man zaps him also into the dungeon, and he gets into the dungeon. He's confused. All the villains are now having their moments of like, oh, you died on this day, and the guy's like, no, I didn't die, and they're all pointing fingers at each other, basically telling each other's fate. So in the beginning of the movie, Sandman was helping Peter Parker. Then it gets to the middle point, where like the climax, where Peter Parker brings them all into Happy's condo to like build stuff to make them go back to normal. And at that point, too, Sandman is still like, okay, guys, let's all do this so we can get back sent home. I want to see my daughter. So he's still a good person. Then
Hold on. That is the extent of Sandman's dialogue within a good portion of this movie. I just want to see my daughter.
That's literally like, they could record that one line and play it several times from it.
The only actual dialogue I feel like he has is when he talks to Electro, and that's pretty much the extent of his talking for a good portion of this film.
Another portion I remember him saying is, sorry, because he's knocking sand off a couch that he sits on. But like, so the middle portion, that's when Green Goblin flips, he goes crazy, blows up the condo, and a lot of the villains escape. And like, during this, he's given a speech like, okay, these are not curses that we have, these are blessings. And that's what makes Electro, because originally he was going to be fine with being like, energy taken out of him. And then Green Goblin gives a speech of like, these are not curses, these are blessings, we're We're gods amongst men. Then Electro's like, okay, takes it off, becomes still a villain. In the meantime, Sandman literally pieces out.
Yeah.
He looks at the fight that's going on, and he just literally turns to dust and flies away. Like, 100% just flies away.
This completely goes against all of his motives. Because here's the thing. If all these characters just disperse, right? And, you know, nothing happens here. He doesn't get to go home.
He doesn't get to go home. If he would have helped in this fight, he would have been able to go home sooner. And then at the very end of the movie, we don't see him again until the very end of the movie. And this is when there's the 3 Peter Parkers are fighting all the villains, and they're trying to cure them, make them better people before they can send them home. Sandman joins the fight, helps the villains, and he literally attacks one of the... I don't remember which Peter Parker he attacks. Is it Tom Holland, maybe?
No, it's Toby.
Was it Toby?
Yeah, because he's up in the little tower thing, yeah.
Yeah, but right before that, as he's attacking, like, Toby is like, we're going to help you all and send you back. And Sandman goes, I don't care.
It's like, what do you mean you don't care?
Like, he joined the fight of the villains, and if the villains won, he would not have been able to go back home. I don't understand why he would join the fight of the villains. He should have allied with the other Peter Parkers.
And also, they're trying to, like, cure you, which is something you basically wanted.
It makes no sense. Why the hell would Sandman just be like, I don't care what you're trying to do?
And the problem...
He's like, where's the box? Because the box has a button on it that'll send them all back home. And he's just like, where the hell's the box? But then they'll die if they get sent back home, yeah.
The other problem I have is this: we have to go back to the Electro scene again. And when they first, you know, capture Electro, we've already seen Sandman can pretty much contain Electro, at least for a little while.
Yeah.
There's 3 villains right now fighting the Spider-Mans. Okay, Lizard. Okay, he gets disposed of pretty easily both times. All right.
Yeah.
Electro, Sandman. If you just help the Spider-Mans real quick, you can contain him. They put the thing on his chest, and the way the last part of the movie goes, it's instant.
Yeah.
Okay, he's solved, and then it's just you all against Lizard until Green Goblin shows up.
Yeah, because Green Goblin, he's the one beating up Peter Parker the whole time. And at this moment, Doc Ock is a good guy because Peter Parker fixes his chip that controls the tentacles, and he's like, "Oh my God, the voices are gone." And this is when Doc Ock has like his redemption arc. He becomes a good guy. But also with Sandman, he also just dips out of the fight.
Yeah,
like there's this whole fight going on, and he just climbs away. I don't understand that.
It makes no sense.
So I feel like that's all I have to say about Sandman. The last person to talk about is fucking Lizard.
Yeah, I'll go back to Lizard since I like my Andrew Garfield villains. They're pretty bad. Okay, so Lizard literally does almost nothing in this movie, like, which is fine. You know, nobody really likes Lizard that much, but like, this is the extent of him in the movie. He gets captured by Doctor Strange off screen. I'm assuming he did okay because Doctor Strange looked a little beat up, which I don't know how that happened, but. So yeah, he gets captured. He's pretty much just there for exposition to say, like, I don't even remember what he says because it's so irrelevant to the plot.
Yeah, I do remember talking. He's like talking to Electro. Whenever they're talking about each other's fates, he asks Electro, "Do I die?" And that's like the only other line he has.
Yes. So then once Peter or Tom Holland's Peter decides, hey, we're gonna save you guys. We're gonna make it to where you don't die. They go to Happy's place. Lizard literally is just sitting in like the truck.
He stays in the truck.
This is the part where we have the most like interaction between villains, I would say, besides like them all sitting in the the basement or whatever. He's not even part of the scene.
He's in the truck and like literally just sitting in the truck. That's all he's doing. Like
he just sits in the truck, and then we have Green Goblin's little speech, and all this breaks out. He just eats on out of there like Sandman. Like he just leaves. Like
and then we see him again. So Green Goblin throws Peter Parker out the window. And Peter Parker's hanging there, and the Lizard comes out of nowhere, grabs Peter Parker and says, "I told you things would get rough," and throws him back into the fight, and then leaves for the rest of the movie until the very end.
Like, and we even see him running away from the buildings when he breaks out. So why did he like start running that way and then run the opposite way back?
Yeah,
to have a little one-liner where he throws him back in there and then leaves.
Yeah. He doesn't even help in the fight. He literally just picks Peter Parker up, throws him back towards the Green Goblin, and runs away. He doesn't even try to attack either of them. He is like the most pointless one in this whole movie.
Yeah, he's the one that literally is not needed in this movie at all.
No, not at all.
Like, and then basically once we have this final battle or whatever, the Lizard's literally just a little bitch the entire time.
Yeah,
he gets like basically dealt with like 2 to 3 times within the fight. Like where he's just not in the fight so they can do other things.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, like because there's a point in the fight because the very end of the movie is the 3 Peter Parkers fighting all the villains except Doctor Strange. He doesn't appear until the very, very end. All the Peter Parkers fighting the villains at the Statue of Liberty. And there's a moment in that fight where I think it was Andrew Garfield,
Yeah.
literally just webs Lizard up, and he's all webbed up for a good like 10 minutes, and then he escapes the web, sees there's this portal open, which we'll talk about later, I guess, because MJ and Ned are inside a portal with the box. He goes through the portal. It's too slow to get them. Tom Holland comes in, beats his ass, and then he gets thrown out of the portal.
He gets thrown out of the portal, and then
Oh wait, I forgot. In the beginning of this fight, a piece of like structure falls down and it lands on Lizard, and he's stuck on the ground for a good portion of the fight. Yeah. So not only is he stuck on the ground for the fight, he finally breaks free, climbs up the tower, gets webbed, is stuck again for a good portion of the fight. What the hell?
Like, he legitimately gets his ass beat by all 3 Spider-Mans in this fight.
Every single person, yeah.
I'm pretty sure every single one beats him down at some point of this fight. Even
to the point where it's like Ned and MJ are able to just run away from him, like, without any problems.
Like, he was already not the best villain in the first Amazing Spider-Man. I think this hurts him even more, because at least, like, if you ever rewatch the first, Amazing Spider-Man, you'd be like, this guy kind of was intimidating. He puts up a fight a little bit with Andrew Garfield. You just look at this movie and you're like, why didn't he just do that? He webbed him up real quick in this movie.
Basically, every scene with Lizard was him contained, because he is first contained in the dungeon, then he was contained inside a truck for no reason, then he's stuck under like a piece of rebar holding him down, and then he's stuck in some webs, and that's every single scene with Lizard.
The final battle with Lizard is legitimately just, okay, we want to make sure he's here, but we're just going to put him off to the side so we can deal with the actual main villains.
Oh, and whenever they turn all the villains back into like normal people and they all get cured, the scene with Lizard is the shortest one, and it's like only half of his face. You don't even see like the whole guy.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, so all the heroes or the Spider-Mans talk to their individual villains, right? So we see Tobey gets to talk to Sandman, Doc Ock, Green Goblin at some point. It's just not that long. And then we see, like, Andrew Garfield talks to Electro. We have almost no talking scene with the Lizard. Like, no,
he's literally like, I think Andrew Garfield's like, "Welcome back, Doctor," or whatever, and then he just leaves again.
Wait, is it even Andrew Garfield that does it?
I don't know. I think it was.
Because Tom Holland's the one that actually cures him.
Oh, wait, was it?
Yeah.
Then it was Tom Holland. Yeah, Tom Holland was just like, "Welcome back to normal," or something, Doctor, whatever his name is, and then just swings away and goes on to the rest of the fight. Yeah. And the whole time, Lizard is apparently just naked up inside the Statue of Liberty, just standing there. We don't see him again until the very end, and you see him for like half a second being zapped back to his universe.
It's like Electro gets this entire little like scene with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, which is, it's a good scene. But we just don't get that for Lizard. Like, no, I just don't, like, they just were like, okay, he's in here, but he's not in here.
We get more of a scene with Sandman, and that scene was still also very quick.
Yeah.
The scene with Sandman was like, you got your body back, whatever your name is.
Yeah. So the villains are a very mixed bag in this movie. You definitely can tell that, like, maybe they didn't have enough time for every villain in this movie, which makes sense. They had like so many villains in this
movie. Very much Lizard and Sandman were fillers for just extra stuff.
Well, what's so frustrating is, like, Sandman, you didn't need to have him like this. You could have changed a few things. Where, like, instead of him like fighting Electro at the beginning, you could have just made it to where, like, he's just a villain. Like, don't give him this, like, oh, he's like in between, if you're just gonna just screw that up in the end anyway.
It literally makes no. Sandman has the worst. Okay, Lizard is the most pointless villain, but Sandman has the most, like, it doesn't make any sense as a villain. What he's in this fight.
Sandman is the most negatively impacted villain from this movie.
Yeah, 100%. Lizard's like, okay, you could basically say Lizard wasn't in the movie, and it'd still be the same movie.
Yeah.
Sandman is like kind of crucial to some scenes because, like, that's how they capture Electro the first time.
Yeah.
But then, like, his whole story arc makes no fucking sense.
Agreed. Like, makes no sense.
Also, we're going to do some very big spoilers for Venom 2. Basically, me saying Venom 2 spoilers, you're already going to, like, assume what you're going to hear.
Yeah.
But in the very end credits of Venom 2, he gets zapped into this Tom Holland universe. He's part of the MCU. And I was like, oh, shit, we're going to see him in Spider-Man. You don't see Venom in this whole movie until after the post-credit scene. You don't see Venom at all until the very post-credit scene. And all he is doing is Eddie Brock is drunk at a bar, talking to the bartender, and he gets pulled out of this universe, and on his way out, he drops a piece of his symbiote by accident. That's the whole scene with Venom, he getting drunk at a bar and asking questions to a bartender, then he gets zapped out of the universe and drops a symbiote. So all they brought him in was just like a setup for the next Spider-Man movies. Because in Spider-Man comic books, Flash Thompson becomes one of the Venoms. He becomes Agent Venom. Now, maybe they're going to do that with, in the movie. I would really hope so. But I just felt like they could have easily replaced Lizard with Venom,
Yeah.
and it would have been a
Easily.
better movie, like 100% a better movie.
Yeah. All you had to do was just set up like the Venom character to where like he has some negative interaction with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and then bam, he could be a villain.
Yeah, and what I thought didn't make sense for the longest time was that so Doctor Strange says everybody that knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man is getting pulled through the universe, and then we hear there's the Electro problem where Electro doesn't know Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But the bigger problem I thought was that in Venom's universe, in the Sony movie Venom, there is no Spider-Man, and I didn't understand how could he get pulled through. And then I saw a theory online that it's because of Venom's symbiote hive mind, and they spread across like galaxies and shit. The idea is that maybe because like his whole hive mind, and that's if like we're going with the fear that they could do like multi-dimensional hive mind.
That's their explanation for it.
Yeah, like the idea would be a multi-dimensional hive mind, which I guess that makes more sense than what I previously thought. I don't know. I just felt like the whole Venom, they could have done way more with him.
Well, okay, so here's my thing. Yes, that could be a possible theory, but they just don't explain it.
They don't explain
in the slightest. They don't give you any reasoning for why Venom would be in here, but it's the same thing with Electro.
It's
so
the
it's
same
like
thing with Electro.
It's one of those things where it's like when you watch it the first time, well, the Venom one actually stuck out to me, but the Electro one didn't. It's one where it's like they're just thinking, okay, they're gonna throw all this nostalgia at you, and it's gonna be really cool, the epic like mid part of this thing that you forget about some of the things at the beginning that they just thought you were gonna forget about it. Pretty much, I feel like is what they did with this, because like you're telling me that they didn't build it up in any way towards Venom. They didn't say anything at him. He just comes up for like a minute or two in
literally
the movie.
Drunk at a bar in the post-credit scene.
Like easily one of the most intriguing characters.
I feel like the whole reason they brought him in is just so they could have a reason for a symbiote being in this MCU universe.
Yes. So eventually down the line, if they ever want to do it, or if they do in the next one, they have this thing set in place. That's all I feel like that was for.
A little bit of symbiote at the bar, which Flash Thompson in the comic books eventually becomes Agent Venom. I don't know if this universe has an Eddie Brock. I don't know.
I don't think so, but
I never saw Homecoming, so maybe there was a cameo scene at some point. I have no idea.
Maybe. Who knows?
But I think the idea is that they're going to send up a movie in the future for Flash Thompson to get the Venom symbiote. On Ned now.
Oh, Ned. Ned gets some powers in this movie.
Yeah, so Ned's whole, like, thing is... Look, I don't even know how to explain the whole Ned thing. He's basically, just being the sidekick of this whole movie up until a point where... Okay, so there's this big fight between Peter Parker, Tom Holland, and Doctor Strange, where Peter Parker's trying to get the box from Doctor Strange, because the box has a button on it, just in simplicity terms. Yeah. It's got a button on it that'll send everybody back to their own universe. So Tom Holland gets into a big fight with him, wins based on geometry, literally based on his math skills. He wins in this fight, steals Doctor Strange's box and his magic ring, and he gives a magic ring to Ned. And we find out in this movie that Ned has, like, magic powers. He's able to open portals and shit. And at the end of the movie, Doctor Strange is like, did you just open a portal? Like, kind of like nonchalantly asking him the question. Ned's like, yeah. And then Doctor Strange's like, interesting. And just keeps on walking. And the theory is... Oh, and there's another point in the movie where Ned asks Tobey Maguire, do you have a best friend? And Tobey's like, yeah, but he tried to kill me. It was heartbreaking. And then Ned's like, goes up to Tom Holland and says, I will never become a villain and try to kill you.
Yeah.
In the comics, Ned becomes the Hobgoblin. And now, at the end of the movie, they activate the spell, and nobody knows who Peter Parker is. Even Ned, MJ, Doctor Strange, nobody knows who Peter Parker is. Now that Ned has no connection to him, I wonder if they're going to set up to him becoming either the apprentice of the one dude, Bordeaux or whatever, or the Hobgoblin. So I thought Ned's character was very good in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was really good. I did feel like on first viewing, because I didn't pick up on certain things, that Ned's like getting powers was a little underdeveloped. But on second viewing, I feel like they did good enough.
I do think...
with all the stuff going on in the movie, I mean, it's really hard to develop something like that.
I don't know anything about this next Doctor Strange movie, but I wonder if they're going to put him in it. I haven't checked the cast.
I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea.
It would be interesting.
I'm not a big Doctor Strange fan, but...
He was easily... Doctor Strange was just like...
He was probably one of the characters that got acted the worst from this movie.
Because all his actions was just like, why would this... Basically the same thing as Sandman. Doctor Strange and Sandman were very much equals.
Well, okay, so basically in this movie, Aunt May gets her Uncle Ben time, okay? And, she is basically used to, give Tom Holland's Spider-Man a little bit of pause, a little bit of breaking down.
Breaking down, yeah.
Which is I think it's a good idea for this movie to introduce the Spider-Mans at this point.
Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense than them just kind of popping up. It gives them a lot of more emotional weight because they can understand what he's going through and give him advice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I hated Tom's. Just a side note. I hate Tom Holland's Peter Parker when they first like meet. He's such a little brat. Like I get it. Like, dude, you realize they're both Spider-Mans, right? They've lost way more than you have.
So yeah. So Tom Holland, you know, Aunt May basically dies in his arms, and he goes off and he's like sitting on top of a building. You know, just wants some alone time. That's when MJ and Ned find the other two Peter Parkers, because Ned opens a portal asking, "Can I find Peter Parker?" And then the other two step in, and then they're like, "Oh shit, there's more Peter Parkers." And Toby's like, "I feel like we need to go talk to your friend, you know, Tom Holland." They go and visit him, and once they visit him, Tom Holland's like, "You don't understand nothing about me," and then like, you know, because he's depressed, and then Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield get their own moments to talk about like their own demons or whatever.
Yeah.
And that scene was pretty good.
I feel like that was probably Andrew Garfield's best acted scene of the entire movie.
Yeah.
Just like talking about like how like, you know, he basically, you know, murdered some people and, you know, was having some issues with his anger and stuff, which, you know, understandable, I guess.
I felt like every scene with all the Peter Parkers together was always good.
Those were the best scenes of the movie, in my opinion.
They're like, they literally start acting like brothers at one point, and they're all just like, they start fixing each other's back. Like,
that was such a funny scene.
There's a scene where it was
a callback to where Tobey Maguire, when like basically he said, it's funny because like they referenced that too, where like he had a little bit of, you know, spider block or whatever. I forget what the exact term they use in the movie. And that's one of the scenes where Toby basically like falls off a building onto a car and goes, "My back."
And then you see in the movie, it was Andrew Garfield, right? That fixes his back. He like starts picking him up and like bouncing him, and he cracks his back, and he's like, "Hey, that felt pretty good."
That felt pretty good.
And like that whole scene was pretty good. Whenever the Spider-Man first meet is also pretty good, and you know they're just talking. I feel like out of every part in this movie, the only times I thought a scene was very good is if all the Spider-Men were.
Yep, agreed. Because no matter like even like some of the villain scenes, like they were really good. It's just the other villains, like you're just sitting there like, why?
I felt like Electro, Jimmy Fox's name, right?
Yeah.
I felt like his performance was very stale in this.
I kind of liked it. I thought like
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think it was good, but I think like they improved him off of like when he was in his own movie.
I'm just saying, when you have a moment of all the Spider-Men talking, they feel like they're just normal people, like brothers or good friends talking to each other. And then you got the villains talking to each other. And I guess, you know, since they're bad people, I don't know. But they just felt very stale. Like Sandman was, of course, stale.
Oh, yeah, he was terribly stale.
He was so stale. But I guess that's just how he is. Lizard never really talked.
Yeah.
Doc Ock and Green Goblin were the best of the lines. And then Electro was just a lot of...
I feel like Electro was just that middle ground where like he had some good moments, he had some bad moments.
Yeah.
And then you had like the two that were good.
The whole movie with Electro is him going, "Man, this power feels good. I want this power."
I will say I like that they, you know, changed and updated Electro's like suit and stuff. It looked so much better.
He looks like the comic book Electro.
Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man, he was kind of rough.
Looks like a fucking orb.
Yeah. Also, the thing with Amazing Spider-Man 2 is whenever he would come on scene and he'd be doing stuff, the music changed. Was not good. Yeah, it was like that.
Yeah, there's nothing like that in this.
And there'd also be like voices you would kind of hear because it was supposed to be like his like mind or something. It was really weird. I do like when we have the first Electro, we do have a little like callback because it starts doing that music.
Yeah. And
then it just stops. But
yeah, his reasoning isn't like the whole explanation for why he looks normal again. It's just because this universe has a different set of power. Like I got my body back.
I think so.
Yeah, and he's just like, I feel different in this universe, and it's like, okay, that's the reason why you look like the comic book now.
It's a lot very contrived.
Yeah, that's their explanation. He's like, I felt this power. It feels different here. I like it. And the whole movie is him like, man, this power. I'm unstoppable. Every single scene with him.
Yes.
Other than that, there's either that part, he's talking about either he's naked or he's talking about
butt-ass naked.
Yeah, he's like, I'm butt-ass naked in this forest. I hate forests.
I hate forests.
And then the other scene with him talking is him talking about how he fell into evil. Other than that, it's about power. Oh, and they also hint. So whenever Electro and Andrew Garfield have their own talk at the very end of the movie, when Electro gets cured, Electro's like, "Man, I thought you would be black," and Andrew Garfield's like, "There's got to be a black Spider-Man out there somewhere," hinting at Miles Morales.
Dude, I wanted them to go to Miles Morales in this movie. That is what I wanted them to do. I wanted them to like establish his character. And he didn't have to be like,
they could have done something little, like something very little. Yeah. I think the next Spider-Man movie, I feel like that was a very much on the nose Miles Morales like hint. If they're not gonna do a Miles Morales at some point, it would make no sense.
Okay, my thing was it made so much sense to introduce him in this movie.
Yeah, this would have been the moment to do it.
This would have been the one. And they just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, I feel like since what I read online is Tom Holland. So apparently they're making another Spider-Man trilogy.
Yeah.
So like after this Spider-Man trilogy, I assume he's done with acting because he talks about wanting to quit acting and make a family. I feel like they're going to carry on with the Miles Morales. Yeah. But I don't know how they're going to like bring him in now because this would have been a perfect moment for something like that. Another character I thought was good was the J. Jonah Jameson.
No, that was really good. They like using like Alex Jones. That was so funny.
Yeah. J.K. Simmons does amazing performance.
As always.
Yeah, every single scene with him was a great scene. Like every single line he said. There's a moment wherever, so he sends one of his news reporter people to go to the condo and follow Peter Parker throughout the whole day. And J. Jonah Jameson finally gets there and he says, "I told you not to lose them." And the news reporter's like, "Well, they're just up there inside." And J. Jonah Jameson goes, "And here we are outside."
Yeah, that was a really good scene.
I don't know, just every single scene with him was great. And then when like Lizard busts out of the truck, he's like, "Did you see that?"
Did you see that? That was a good thing. That was about the only good Lizard scene.
Very much an Alex Jones kind of.
Yeah. Okay, another character we didn't talk about, MJ.
MJ?
I think she was pretty good in this movie.
Yeah.
I felt like it was way more believable, the relationship, than in the last one.
Definitely.
So yeah, I just wanted to say, I think they did a really good performance. Probably helps that they're dating in real life, so they should have that chemistry.
Nothing really like crazy happens with her character. I don't think this whole movie.
No,
she's just there for like emotional support for like Peter Parker, and can't really think of anything.
Like I mean, the whole thing at the end of the movie is it's kind of emotional because start to see that they're really close and stuff like that, and then they forget, but she really doesn't have a lot of character development within this movie.
She's basically the same person throughout the whole movie.
Yeah,
but not in like a bad way. It's not necessarily bad.
It's one of those characters where it's like you didn't need them to have this big arc. It was kind of like just make it to where her relationship with Tom Holland.
It was fine good. Where it was at. Yeah. Another character is Happy. Happy just kind of there for comedic relief
and for plot reasons, like using his
apartment, his condo, and then he's there whenever Aunt May dies. That's pretty much Happy's moments.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. He's not too happy in this movie.
And then Flash Thompson, he got into the college that Peter Parker and everybody else wanted to. So he was the reason how Peter Parker knew where the college dean was at, because she was on a car going to the airport. Flash tells him where she's at. And that's basically the last time you see him in the movie.
Yeah, he's not terribly big in this movie, which makes sense. I mean, again, this movie has a lot of characters in it, so you can't really
put them all in. And I heard a rumor that like the MJs from the like other Spider-Man movie, like she was apparently like her scene was cut. I don't know. I heard like a theory about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like that's all that we could say about the characters. I feel like we talked about every single character.
Yeah, you want to get to the end?
Sure, you can go.
All right, so we're going to get to the ending now, okay? The ending, when I first watched it, I was okay with it. I wasn't pleased with it. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, everybody forgets, whatever. Which would have been fine if they were going to go somewhere, a different direction with it. Like, I wanted them to go with, like, Miles Morales or something. Like, how are you going to go from now on where, like, Peter just doesn't know anybody? Nobody knows him. You've kind of destroyed a lot of your groundwork that
you really did. They can't just leave it like that.
They just can't. Like, that's the problem. And the other problem I have with this movie as a whole, I should probably talk to this at the beginning, is that they just do this whole spell that everybody forgets Peter, right? They could have used this spell so many different times to, like, help solve conflicts. Like, with, like, Thanos or any of that stuff, they could have been like... So, basically, they could have been like, oh, well, everybody forgets the, like, Infinity Stone.
Yeah, they could have done that on Thanos. Oh, before we get to the end... reminding me about the box. So once they like cure all the villains, because Doc Ock comes back, helps them fight Electro, and that was a good scene. At first I was like, because Doc Ock, he comes into the battle thinking he's like, you think he's going to be a villain, and he turns out no, he's actually going to be a good guy and helps the fight. So Doctor Strange comes back through a portal that Ned opened, and they get the box, and they're about to press the box button. Well, no, because they're waiting for Green Goblin to show up. Because Green Goblin is not in this fight. He comes at the very end. He comes in, swoops down, takes the box, and then it blows up. And when that box blows up, it activates the spell that people were going to start coming through the portal, like through the universes. And in the sky, you see like other Spider-Man villains. You see like Rhino, you see Vulture, you see Scorpion, and Doctor Strange. He's not in the fight anymore because he has to help cancel the spell. Like, he's doing magic, trying to close all the different portals and shit. So Green Goblin has this big fight with Peter Parker. Tom Holland wants to kill Green Goblin, and Tobey Maguire swoops in and is like, no, you're not going to kill him. And then Tobey Maguire gets stabbed in the back.
I actually thought he was going to die in that scene, and I was actually going to be like so sad.
Yeah, he doesn't die, but if he would have died right there, I would have been like, are you fucking kidding me?
I'd have been like, they got some big balls on them.
They got some very big balls. So now that the box is destroyed, they can't just press that button and send everybody back. So Tom Holland goes to Doctor Strange saying, hey, if you activate a spell that makes everybody forget who I am, wouldn't it work? And Doctor Strange's like, yeah, it should work. And he starts activating the spell. I just don't get, how does that work? What would be the difference between that spell and then a spell where MJ, Ned, and Doctor Strange still remember Peter Parker and all the villains forget? Because the villains was the problem.
I think they're trying to play it off as, oh, if you keep adding elements to the thing, it's going to make the spell harder to do for Doctor Strange or something. But
that's the only thing I could assume.
But they just don't explain it that way.
They don't explain it at all.
They just do a really bad job. And this whole idea now, this is my problem with this movie, is because now anytime we get a movie, it's just like in the Last Jedi with the Star Wars stuff. Anytime I see any type of battle in space, I'm going to be like, hey, just hyperspeed and destroy their whole fleet.
Yeah.
So it's like with this, I'm like, okay, if we have any like major villain in the future, I'm going to be like, why don't we just go to Doctor Strange and just tell him to do some forgetting spell?
It's literally like Doctor Strange. I enjoy Doctor Strange. I think he's a fun character. But with him being in this MCU universe with all these magical abilities, there should be like theoretically no other fight. Like same with the whole like the reason you don't see Captain Marvel anymore is like the excuse that, oh, she's busy. It's like
she's busy. Like
she's busy.
They built her up so where she's so powerful that some of these movies just would not happen if she was there.
Yeah.
So it's like they have to be like, oh yeah, she's doing something else.
They're gonna do the same thing with Doctor Strange at some point, where it's like, okay, well, this guy's about to blow up New York. Doctor Strange, do a spell, make him forget what New York is.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange will be like, oh, I'm busy.
I'm busy. I'm fighting my other self.
I'm fighting. Yeah. Yeah, like the whole, I don't know. I feel like Doctor Strange, him being in the universe, causes a lot of problems of like plot errors like that.
I feel like you know how good some of the aspects of this movie were. It is kind of broken.
Yeah. A
lot of the things that are that can happen in the future for me.
There's literally like you said, they could use just make him forget. He could use that spell at any time. And he just never used it until now.
He's never brought up the spell like ever. Like it's just he's just waiting for Spider-Man to use it.
Yeah, like literally the whole time during Infinity War could have casted that. He's just like, no, let's just do it. So
at the very least, he just could have done a forget spell on like the Soul Stone, right?
Yeah.
Gamora, for what we know, is like one of the only characters that knows where that is. Okay. Could have just been like, hey, forget where the Soul Stone is.
Yeah, make everybody just forget where a stone is.
Or just say, forget the Soul Stone. Nobody even knows that it even exists.
Yeah, nobody knows it exists, and then the whole time Thanos would be counting the stones. He's like, I swear I have fucking all of them. I
swear there's supposed to be one more. Why is there an extra spot? Let's go kill Peter Dinklage. He lied.
There's got to be another spot.
So like that's just the problems with this movie. The overarching problems that like occur with this movie is why like it has a lower rating for me. And the people that say this movie is perfect, I can't agree. I just can't agree with that.
It's the nostalgia.
It's the nostalgia. It's a major thing because it's like, for me, right? I'll go back and play games that were in my childhood where I'll be like, they are perfect, but I can still see why people don't like them.
Yeah. Because
like it's just different. So like, for instance, it's a common theme that most of my friend group, if we go Call of Duties, we love Call of Duty 2.
Call of Duty's the best.
And to a lot of people that are like, especially like kids nowadays that are playing the new Call of Duty and stuff like that, but this game is trash. There's no running in it.
Yeah, we don't mean Black Ops 2. We mean Call of
COD 2.
Like COD 2.
That's what I feel like this movie is running on. It's like people just like see all these like older stuff and they look past a lot of the errors of this film.
It's very much a moment where people are like, oh, all the Peter Parkers are here and a lot of the old cast is here. And the visuals are great. It's a great movie. Yeah. It's like, no.
It's like some of this, that's a lot of problems with Hollywood movies nowadays, or just movies in general, is the plot or the like dialogue.
It's very much they had an idea of what they wanted to do, but getting up to that idea was just like, it made no fucking sense. A lot of convenient stuff happened.
Yeah, a lot of convenient stuff.
It was convenient. I just don't like it when movies throw in the idea that, oh, everybody forgot now. It's like, that is just such a lame excuse. Like, so many movies and, like, franchises do it where it's like, oh, this character has amnesia. They don't remember this crucial moment for plot reasons.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? At least give a reason, like a genuinely good reason, not like, oh, this... I don't like it. I just don't like it. That was just my main problem with it. The whole idea when I heard that they're going to a route where everybody's going to forget, and I was like, well, there we go. You can make any story now that if everybody forgets who Peter Parker is, you could write any story now. Very convenient. Oh, the ending though. The very end, we see Peter Parker. He goes back to meet MJ and Ned because they were like, come back and tell us who you are. We don't want to live not knowing who you are. And he goes to talk to them, and then he just doesn't say anything because he wants to keep them safe. He doesn't want them to become Peter Parker friends. He doesn't want them to get hurt in the future. But what I thought was great is at the very end of the movie, we see him make the original Spider-Man suit again, the red and blue one.
That was good.
And I was like, that is such a great way, because I imagine this next Spider-Man trilogy is going to have him in that suit. It's like, that's a great way to bring in that new suit.
Yeah, it is. It's a good idea, and I think they executed that well on what she was going to use. That whole like scene with like after they forget and everything with MJ and Ned and stuff like that. I don't know. It just felt so awkward. It was such an awkward scene, and I'm like, if you just, I don't know.
Here's another thing. How strong is this forgetting spell? Like, is it just a spell that makes people forget, or does it actually destroy items? Because throughout this whole movie, you see posters and videos about who Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Yeah. It's like, does this spell also just delete all these MP4s and PNGs and JPEGs?
I'm assuming so, apparently.
Like, that's the only thing I can assume, because it's like, there were billboards, and then there was posters, and then there was, like, YouTube videos about who Peter Parker actually is on millions of phones. So I'm guessing the spell also just deletes that stuff. It's not just a simple forget spell.
Yeah.
In that point, if they could have said everybody forgets the Infinity Stones, the Infinity Stones would have been gone.
I know. Like, this movie makes so many, like, problems, plot holes, issues.
And here's another thing. If everybody forgets who Peter Parker is, does that mean his whole like social security number and shit's fucked up? Like, does he even have like an identity in, like as a U.S. citizen?
Okay, that's
anymore?
another thing I was thinking. How does he rent an apartment at the end of this movie?
Yeah, because he rents an apartment.
He doesn't have a job.
There's no way he could tap into family funds because if everybody forgets who Peter Parker is, it's almost as if he didn't have a family.
So he shouldn't even have a bank account.
Shouldn't have a bank account.
So
that's what I'm saying.
I'm confused on how he's even.
It's like the simple nitpicks. Like
what did he put his name down as for the? What did he put his like?
Peter Parker.
Peter Parker.
I'm just saying because it's like we said, there's so many nitpicks for this movie that it makes it just so like you're questioning everything.
Like, this is my thing. So before we went to go see the second movie, what I was talking about with the Thanos thing is what I called Luke before we went to see it the second time because it like blew my mind. I'm like, how is that like you can't introduce something that would erase like that big event?
Yeah. This is just God. The more I talk about this movie, like my score drops lower and lower.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna be honest, I was more hyped for this than I was for Endgame, just because like I wouldn't consider myself a Marvel fan. I like Spider-Man. Like I like the Marvel movies. I'm a Marvel movie fan. But as a Marvel universe, I really only care about the Spider-Man stuff in Deadpool. So hearing that there was gonna be a Spider-Man movie, possibly with all the Spider-Man in it, I was like, oh, it's gonna be fucking great. And then I walked out like, okay, it was okay. And then the second time I walked out like I'm mad.
Yeah. Okay, so see, for me, I was excited for this movie because of the returning Spider-Mans. Because I just figured they were going to be in it. Like, a lot of the, like...
Doc back. Green Goblin back. They gotta come back.
Also, there was, like, a few scenes where it just felt awkward. Because you could tell that they digitally edited it out where it was just Tom Holland Spider-Man. But you can... It just makes sense from the shot that there's two more.
Yeah, because, like, the fight scene.
Yeah. So, I was excited for that. But I'm not usually excited for Tom Holland Spider-Mans. I've said this before on... You know, our first technically our first podcast, I said I didn't like Tom Holland as Spider-Man in it. That's not really, I guess it's the point, but like, so going into this movie, I already don't really like Tom Holland's universe that much. Like, I don't really like, I know why people like him and stuff. I don't know. To me, he's never felt like Spider-Man. But I don't know. I don't know. I was kind of just hoping we were gonna have a nice, like, funny film with all the Spider-Mans coming back and all the villains and stuff. And not have it break the plot.
Yeah, like literally.
It broke it.
It broke so much shit. Yeah, if you were to take out Sandman, take out Lizard, reduce Doctor Strange's most of his scenes other than him casting the spell, and that would basically be the same.
Now, my other question I have is, I don't know if they answered this, but what happens to all like these people that go back now? So does this just erase the Spider-Man movies, like the old ones?
Here's what I don't like. So do they also forget too? That because this spell was that everybody forgets Peter Parker Spider-Man.
How did they just randomly get cured now?
In the first time this spell worked like interdimensionally, it brought in all these people. Does this mean every universe nobody knows Peter Parker Spider-Man?
Imagine.
Dude, like so Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield just got fucked out of this.
They literally just got their whole lives screwed up.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he was very vague. They're just like, everybody forgets Peter Parker. So you know how
it said Peter Parker. They didn't even say Spider-Man.
You know how basically Tobey Maguire was talking about. Yeah, he finally figured out his relationship is up. Yeah, nope.
Yeah,
that one's gone.
So that's gone. Holy fuck! I didn't even think about this until now.
This is what I'm talking about. The more you talk about this movie, the worse like you just think about things, and you're like,
yeah. You start questioning more than you should, but it's like, god damn it, if you're gonna do like stupid spells like this, of course I'm gonna question it.
Like, you just can't. I don't know. You can't introduce so many like bad things and just expect. Okay, well, we showed them a couple characters they like, and then, for the general population, it worked.
Yeah.
But
we waved Spider-Man in front of them and they laughed. It's just like,
see, I think the thing is, a lot of people are like way more hardcore Spider-Man fans than I am. So I went into this movie where I didn't just blatantly just look at all the Spider-Man things they were giving you that was really cool, and I'm someone that more like, I like a good story.
I like a good story.
It's the reason like Game of Thrones is like my favorite like story in general until later on, because everything's usually based like as in anything can happen. Like you make a stupid decision, you die. Like there's no like plot inconvenience, you're dead.
There's no plot armor.
There's no plot armor.
This one was very much, oh, we have a problem here. Well, Doctor Strange has a magic solution.
Yeah. It's like, what? No, you don't get little plot things like that. That's just not, I don't know.
Bro, I'm still just thinking about, so did this spell go like interdimensionally, so everybody has now forgotten?
Maybe that's why Venom in the Sony universe doesn't know spell.
I don't know. I want to see them do something with Flash Thompson and Venom. That's the only thing I'm really, that and Miles Morales.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so whenever, because at the end of the movie, when he goes to visit MJ and Ned, he brought this piece of paper with him, and he's like gonna read it off to him. He doesn't. He leaves, and then MJ was kind of looking around. Do you think she like had a feeling like I should know who this person was, or do you think she was looking around like, oh, this is a?
I think it was a weirdo.
Okay, because it's very weird if you take this into real life world.
Yeah,
like,
it's
Tom Holland
really
has like
weird
5-minute pauses where he just looks at people's faces.
Yeah,
it's like that's just ruining your chance.
You know what I think would be really cool that I think they could do, because like, since Tom Holland's not around anymore, wouldn't it be cool if MJ and like Ned got together, and that's the reason like
that's what I thought they were doing.
Tom can go really, he can get a little angry.
That's what I thought they were doing.
And then you could do the thing where like maybe Tom Holland like somehow she doesn't forget, or she doesn't have this whole forgetting thing, and she like remembers Tom. Now you have the situation where like she likes both of them, and they gotta fight to the death.
Oh, Ned becomes Hobgoblin.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing. I mean, well, you know what? We're already breaking things anyway. We just make her unforget. It'll be fine.
Yeah. This whole spell is very much a confusing, like, how strong the spell can be.
Yeah. This movie just... I came out of this movie with more questions than I had answers.
I'm just like... If everybody forgot... So, okay, is it like... Was the spell everybody forgets who Peter Parker is, or was it the spell that nobody ever knew who Peter Parker is?
I don't know. This is why do we got to answer these questions?
Shit.
The stuff they're supposed to answer. We got to go on the Marvel Reddit. Spider-Man Reddit. Hey, yeah. If any of you guys know in the comments, let us know, because I'm deeply confused by how this worked.
We are probably... we're going to get for this, because we just kind of shitted on this movie, but you know what? Some movies deserve to be shitted on. And I was hyped. I was so hyped.
I mean, I was too. And I don't think this is a terrible movie, right? I think this is an above-average movie.
Oh!
Okay, so, like, this movie, what were you going to give it out of 10?
Fuck. Okay, my very first viewing, I don't do any halves. It's like a solid number. I was going to give it, maybe like a 9 out of 10, because I was like, all the Spider-Men are here, all the villains are here, this was so great. But after rewatching it, and thinking critically of how this affects the MCU and the storyline, I'm looking at maybe a 7, possibly a 6, mostly a 7.
That is exactly where I was. So I was a 9 when I first saw it, and then the second time, I was at like a 6 or a 7. I'd say a 7.
I would probably say like a 7, yeah.
But like, so like you're saying, like, it's a good movie, right? Like, it's definitely an enjoyable movie and stuff. It just breaks a lot of plot, and like, I like this movie, but the reason we're giving it so much crap in this video is because of how like there's so many disappointing elements to how hyped up and like good it could have been.
You would think this movie is a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 if you went in and you don't care about too much about story, you just want to see action, you want to see the Spider-Mans, and you want to see like the nostalgia. If you're not too big into the MCU, I could see this being like a very perfect movie. But I am like very much wanting a good story. I want to see the MCU being very good and fluid.
Yeah.
That's what brings it down for me.
Agreed. So let us know what you guys think about the movie. I feel like we're definitely gonna get a lot of hate for this video.
Hey, but dislike button's gone, so it don't matter.
Dislike button's gone, which is probably a bad thing because it actually helps your interaction, and that means YouTube will recommend your content more. Just think about it. How do you think Jake Paul got anywhere? The dislike button. So yeah, that is our review of Spider-Man: No Way Home. If you'd like to see more movie reviews from us, let us know, or recommend movies you'd like us to review. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and subscribe for more.